let's get into the sides and total stuff here. Let's start with Celtics and the Pacers. Currently in the market, this is ticked up to Celtics -5. The total is ticked up to 240.5. No surprise there. This is now stretched to 240, given that the Pacers over has been just extremely good to play. Like the Heat won the other night is like the pinnacle of it. No Tyrese Halliburton, and they still like somehow put up a monster number on Miami. I know Bam was out, but like, holy God, if they're going to put up that kind of number, that's crazy. And typically, like, I love like the easy play. I've bet ridiculous numbers on overs with the Pacers, but I surprisingly do have this projected under. And as this continues to kind of get up there, I'm getting closer to wanting to bet an under along with Jim on this one. Jim, go ahead and give me the cap for why you like the under. Let's start there in Pacers versus Celtics.
Yeah, so I'm definitely wary. There is a little bit of fear going on and under again, like in any game with this Pacers team right now, because as we've talked about, the offense is historically great and the defense is historically bad. And part of that is if we're looking at raw like points allowed, that's going to be from pace, but it's also just a pretty bad defense. They're much more focused on getting the ball out of the hoop and running you out the gym with an offense that's really going to be the focal point. But the reason I'm looking under on this, and hopefully you can wait on this. I keep an eye on it. Like you said, it has steamed up actually quite a bit. There's always a little bit of fear when you're going against that, but I think this is a spot where actually the Celtics offense has kind of cooled off a bit in the last couple of weeks quietly. They're down to, if we use cleaning the glass, which cuts out those garbage time minutes, they're the 22nd ranked offense in the last 2 weeks, just way down from 9th overall on the season. So, if we look at it from the Celtics side of it, that's one factor. They did really run the Pacers out of the gym the last time they played, put up 150.
Yeah. But hey, hang on. Let's put some context. They scored 155 points. Like, we need to like make sure that we're not like, oh yeah, like they beat the Pacers badly. Like they scored 150 on them.
It's insane.
Yeah,
insane.
It was arguably the most. Was it the biggest blowout of the season? It must be, right? I don't think we have any other 50-point losses.
The Pistons might, but like
the Pistons, yeah. Pistons have 2 or 3 of them. But my favorite part of this is the Pacers part of it, which goes into why I also have the Pacers team total under targeted as well on that 118.5. So part of this is that Halliburton is questionable. We talked through a couple weeks back when I made my slanderous comparison to Chris Paul for Halliburton, just how amazing he has been in terms of impact on the Pacers the last couple seasons. So I'll just run through these really quick. But again, points per 100 with him on, it's 121, with him off 113. 3-point percentage drops 4 points. True shooting percentage drops 6 points. The turnovers go up by 2 per 100. They get their free throw rate plummets. So really, he is essential to driving this offense. Now, as you pointed out, the last game against Miami, they got over the line even without Halliburton. And in this game, honestly, I think even if Halliburton plays, I am going to be comfortable. It will be much less of a hammer and more of a lean. But I think that Boston really has the defensive personnel that can kind of give Halliburton some trouble. Us three right here are probably about as high on Halliburton as you're going to find out there. However, I think, at least for me personally, a good chunk of that is, I think he is like one of the 3 or 4 smartest players in the league right now. And it isn't, I mean, don't get me wrong, he is incredible. He's an incredible athlete. He has incredible vision. But I think a lot of what he is so good at is picking a weakness and really, just shredding it over and over again. And this Celtics defense, eventually their backcourt, especially their backcourt, is really, really strong. Probably about the best in league. I think the biggest argument for another incredible defensive backcourt is the Magic. And look at what he did against Magic. It was his worst game of the year. He had 12 points. He really struggled. I don't think we're going to see that bad of a game from him. I think that was, a little bit of a one-off. But I do think this is a defensive backcourt that if anyone can give Halliburton a little bit of trouble, and if anyone can slow this Pacers offense down, it's a defense like the Celtics that has, Drew, Derek White in the backcourt. Really, really strong. So that Pacers under is my favorite part of it, but the game as a whole, because of the way the Celtics offense has been the last couple of weeks, hasn't been quite up to their standards. I like the over if it doesn't start to trend back down towards where it originally opened.
Okay, counter. They're playing the Pacers, who are currently 30th in schedule adjusted defense.
Yeah, that is fair.
And it's what's funny is I looked at how I have this projected. I can't play an under because I have this literally at I have it at 238.5, and it's just like there's not enough clearance on that for me to bet it unless it's got up to like 244. What's interesting though is I have it projected Celtics slightly over and Pacers slightly under. And so like I have a little bit of an edge on playing both sides of that, which honestly it's why I think your Pacers under the best here, where Boston might go either way. Like that to me might be the tension point here is like Boston against this defense, like Boston's offense may underperform and so they don't go under, but like the Pacers defense is still so bad. Like that's a question mark here versus what do we know? Like
what do we target? Yeah.
Like what we know is the Pacers offense is really good, but the Celtics defense is number 1 in the league and they've held down the Pacers before. I would love the Pacers to win this game. Like I hate that this is who they got. I would much rather have it be like how good would Knicks Pacers at the Fieldhouse be with all like the Ewing Miller stuff?
Yeah.
How good would honestly Pacers Bucks be given that the Pacers have like already pushed them this season? That would be really good. Like I hate that this is the matchup because like the Pacers are one of the most fun stories. And Joe, you've got them -4.5. The Celtics -5. I think you're probably fine with too. Yeah. It just this is such a bad matchup for Indiana, and even without Kristaps Porzingis, who's going to miss this game, you know, even if Tyrese plays, Tyrese has a respiratory infection, by the way. That either way, I just can't. I've tried and I can't get to a spot of the Pacers are going to win this game. If they do, it's going to be amazing. But I can't find a way that they're going to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way that Indiana wins this game is like they variance them. Like it's a one game situation, and the shots fall. You know, like if they can shoot 50% from 3, which against Boston, very tall task. Like the circumstances are just not there. Like the margin's not there. If this game was in Boston, like, and maybe we saw like Boston -9 and like a +310 money line, I probably would be betting Indiana just based on like where the value is. Like I just think that the home court here is like making the line somewhere that I think is valuable. Like I don't really know, like I don't know like how much this home court really means to a young Indiana team who's never really had to play in any type of circumstance that's like, or any game that's like this important right now. Like whereas Boston, this is like, you know, we kind of talked about this off air a bit, but it's like, how much like is Boston going to really even be that concerned about this? Is this just like a regular game to them? And I think like maybe being able to go into the game like kind of loose and like playing the way that they play, like they don't have to do anything different. Boston doesn't have to scheme differently to defend the Indiana Pacers. Like they can just go out there, do what they do, and I think that that's super valuable in this spot. So at 4.5, 5, 5.5, I'm pretty comfortable laying that margin. I think that you're going to see a lot of free throws maybe at the end of the game, especially like if it's close, which I think could help us get out of that threshold too. Like if it is a little bit closer, I think that, you know, like if it's at a 5-point game or a 6-point game, like you're not going to see them just say like, all right, we're just going to give it to you. Like I think we might see a couple fouls there towards the end where you wouldn't, but I'm not even really that concerned with that circumstance. I think that Boston is the better team just overall. And I think that what you mentioned about the backcourt is damaging enough for Halliburton. And the fact that, you know, if he is dealing with a respiratory illness, which like obviously is, but like, I don't know how bad that's going to be, you know, come Monday night, that could impact the way that he plays or the minutes that he plays. Maybe he can't play 45 minutes in a spot where Indiana, who, you know, is a younger team, probably wants this moment for these players, for this organization, that like they might really care about this in-season tournament, maybe a little bit more because they don't necessarily have those title aspirations, but like this is their thing. Maybe they can't run him as many minutes as they would normally want to. So I'm very comfortable laying the 4.5 and the 5. And like you guys mentioned, like I'm super high on Halliburton. This game, I just think this is just the worst matchup they could have possibly had. And Boston, you know, is for all intents and purposes the best team in the league right now. And even without Kristaps Porzingis, you still have Al Horford. You have a very strong starting 5 here. I think that they kind of take care of business here and move on.
So with normalized home court advantage, I have this actually Celtics -8.
Okay.
With adjusting for in season, how the Pacers have been at home, I have it 2.4. Right, so that gives me like 2 points of value, and those have been a little bit actually been that that has overperformed the normalized over the last 3 weeks as we start to see standardized numbers. It helps a lot for my projections. So like I should have a little bit of value on Indiana here, but you're right that it's a weird environment. It's a different environment. Like, do the Celtics come into this and are like, no, we're winning the 500,000. Let's treat this like a little bit higher.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, what does that look like for Indiana? What does the variance look like? Like, KP's been out. I think it's a big part of the offense struggling lately. Like, that is a significant loss for them. But it's not like the Pacers as much as I like the Pacers bigs. I like the Pacers bigs as in like oh, they just like help, not as in like, oh, that like Miles Turner's going to go off for 25 and 10.
Yeah.
Like that's not going to happen. So I'm kind of with you. The 4.5 though is why I don't think I'll play it. Is we're in that range of I'm very cautious about numbers between 4 and 6.5. It's not like the NFL where there are key numbers, but if the Pacers are down 4 with 7 seconds left, maybe they foul, maybe they don't foul, right? And that's maybe they just run it out. And whenever you're in that spot where they can run it out, I get real nervous about how to lay numbers if I don't have a significant edge in the spot or in the projection. I think it's a really interesting matchup. It should be like better than it was that last time.
Yeah, it has to be.
The Pacers have kind of shown they can bounce back. What, Joe?
Halliburton didn't play in that other one.
Yeah.
So
and who knows what he's gonna look like with a respiratory infection.
Hey Matt, real quick, do you think if Halliburton is ruled either officially out or officially in, this, like how much is Halliburton baked into this line? I see kind of 75% playing based on this line, I think.
Yeah, this suggests that he's gonna play.
Yeah.
And usually when guys have like respiratory infections, they can get them healthy because they have guys giving them. I actually heard a player talking about this, about what they did, which is like they were sick. And so they were like, yeah, okay, you come in, you take your IV, you go immediately to the sauna and you sweat it out. And then you go back and you get your IV and you go in the sauna and you sweat it out. And I'm like, I want this when I'm sick. This sounds amazing. And they're like, okay, go and take a 2-hour nap and then we're going to do it again. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like what? Like why can't I be treated like a $15 million a year NBA player? I do think that if he plays, I don't think this moves if he plays. I think that
I agree.
I think it moves
especially because we're seeing movement on Boston, so it's like they don't need to move it back.
Yeah,
like they don't need to. If they move it back, they're just going to take more Boston money.
Yeah,
but if he doesn't play, it's
going to skyrocket. It's got to skyrocket. Like it has to.
Yeah. So like, let's see what I've got him at. Yeah, I've got him at. I have him high, is what I'll say as far as like what he's worth to the spread.
Like you're replacing him with TJ McConnell, and I love a good TJ McConnell prop, but like, come on, like what are we doing? It's not going to be good.
Probably, I would say it's probably Boston -8 then. And if you want to go further, and it's like a 6-point move per 36 is not crazy to think about. So it's probably somewhere between 3 and 6. It's probably maybe it's like 5, 4.5, 5. 4.5 is probably pushing it, I think, for a player like Tyrese, even though I would have him higher. So it probably does probably pop up to like 9.5.
He really screams to me one of those guys that's pretty hard to put an exact like he's like in the Jokic zone. He's not in the Jokic zone overall, but I'm just saying he's in that zone of impact on his team's offense where it's really hard to capture that in like a sane number for the book. I think at least.
So Jim's on Pacers team total under and the Boston under, and Joe likes Boston -4.5. Nothing for me on this one. I do have Celtics in a parlay.